Welcome to the NWI.com Political Roundtable for Thursday, December 19th. I'm Robert Blaskowitz, Assistant Managing Editor of The Times. Join with me today Doug Ross, Editorial Page Editor of The Times, and Chris Ivanovic, Assistant Managing Editor of The Times. Let's start off in Porter County today, where there's been some interesting things going on with the federal investigators, county government going in and looking at records in the county highway department and the county clerk's office. We're hearing some things that there might be some looking into the insurance benefits that county employees have. What are you hearing, Doug?
There's speculation that they're also looking into highway department purchases, and they've looked at conflict of interest statements as well. So what this leads me to believe is they must be looking at public officials' involvement in these contracts and how that's all shaking down. Boy, it sure is interesting. There have been no indictments yet. No word about
even
the existence of a grand jury.
Right.
So we're still in the investigative stage. We don't know anything. But it sure is interesting to know that the FBI is taking such a close look at operations in Porter County when
it's very unusual.
Well, it's unusual, and there's this assumption that if you're in Lake County government in whatever capacity, you must be a crook. Well, here it is. These raids are happening and the seizure of the records are happening in Porter County. So to me, this says you ought to do something to Valparaiso's got an ethics commission, for instance. Porter County doesn't. Maybe it's time for Porter County to join the Shared Ethics Advisory Commission. LaPorte County did, so we know it can, cross county boundaries, even though it was founded in Lake County, and get some of that ethics training going, because it looks like Porter County really could benefit from that.
Yeah, these issues cross. They're not exclusive to one county.
Right.
Exactly.
They cross
That's
lines.
true.
So.
Exactly. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But it sure would be good for the county to be proactive and say, we're moving forward with joining and let's get the training started.
Right. Something that's kind of developing today, it'll be in Friday's edition of the Times. Governor Pence is looking at further changes in taxes, trying to kind of do things to target tax cuts to families, to those families with children. And interesting to find out how this will, what kind of implications it'll have for the rest of the state budget and for other revenues for the state.
And we really don't know. It's more, I said this on the Channel 56 year-end taping I did with Jerry Davich and Keith Kirkpatrick. That will be shameless plug on a week from Friday. Yeah. The shell game continues with taxes in Indiana, and we eventually are going to have to do a project trying to look at just exactly how much we really do pay, because it seems like we get a break, property tax cap relief on one end, and then we have to pass a referendum and pay more in property taxes to help our schools and on and on. This one, I just spoke with Dan Cardin today. Governor Pence was in Fort Wayne giving his family speech, his family agenda, and in it he said he wants to increase the $1,000 per child income exemption. But he wouldn't say how much, so we don't really know what impact it would have. I mean, if it's $10, if it's double, if it's he wouldn't say. But he said the purpose was to strengthen the foundation of Indiana families so that Indiana tax laws are family friendly. I don't know if he had planned this all along or if this was something that his administration kind of came up with at the 11th hour to sort of counteract his recent announcement that he'd like to get rid of the corporate income tax, personal property tax, which brings in $1 billion a year to municipalities, counties, schools. And he also said, just as an aside, he noted that he believes in traditional families, which I think the press corps took to mean a marriage between a man and a woman and a stable family, not divorce. So that's that.
Right. Well, there's two things here. One is I think what he may be doing is trying to fight some of the criticism of Indiana's tax system being regressive. overly regressive because of its over-reliance on things like sales taxes, which hurt the poor more than the wealthy. By doing this, you target tax cuts toward, everyone would enjoy them, but of course it would be a greater amount of the poor's income that would be exempted. The other part of this is the marriage statement, which I think is probably making some people nervous because there are those that are nervous that gay marriage could derail what is a very important session, particularly for Northwest Indiana, with the issues that we have with transportation and other important
economic
topics.
Development in general
Right.
up here, right? And if they get caught in a pissing match about gay marriage, social policy things that really, what's the point? It's already state law.
Well, exactly, and that's the point. It's state law already, and so why put it into the Constitution? Because all you're doing is picking a fight, and so how much. If we're talking about let's make Indiana business friendly, really, how much do you want businesses to be looking at Indiana saying, well, there goes that potential pool of job applicants or whatever. And
it could turn into a big fight. I know we had our Portage woman, I can't remember her name, who is working with Freedom Indiana to try and derail.
Megan Robertson.
Yes. What's her name again? Megan Robertson. And we heard a couple of weeks ago.
And she was a Republican who has worked on a number of campaigns.
Right.
Right.
She's a bona fide
Luke Messer's
Republican.
campaign most recently. So yeah.
And but interestingly, Mary Cheney was in Indianapolis a few weeks ago for a dinner. The press was not invited. It was pretty private, just with the Freedom Indiana people, to maybe help them figure out a way to diffuse this. So maybe they're anticipating they might know something we don't about what could happen in the legislature starting in January.
And frankly, I think this is a real landmine for the Republican Party that they ought to just shove aside and let's do what Governor Pence said he was going to do during his campaign and all last year and so far this year was let's focus on jobs primarily and the economy, and so we'll see whether this issue becomes the landmine that blows that all off course.
Right. Last week we had a special edition of the Political Roundtable on NIRPC's vote on the Ileana Expressway. You can go to nwi.com and see that. But they also took a couple of other interesting votes last week on both the South Shore and the RDA.
Right. So they're supporting the extension of South Shore service. With the idea that here we are, we're part of the Chicago metropolitan area, and we really need the access to the jobs in Cook County. When you figure it out, and they've done the study, it's been some time since they did the study, but they did the study that in walking distance, so roughly within a mile of the Randolph Street Station at Millennium Park, you've got more jobs available than in all of Lake and Porter counties combined. I mean, that's the economic value of increasing access to those jobs in Chicago, through the South Shore Railroad, through, increasing bus service and all these things. The advantage of the railroad is you build it and then they know you're committed to it. It's not like, let's take over the one in Hammond and then shut it down for lack of funding and it just disappears. The rails mean that it will continue. There's just a long-term commitment. And the
RDA.
The RDA, similarly, that's a commitment that we're in it for the long haul. What NIRPC is pushing for, and we're pushing for, is to have that state contribution of $10 million a year to the RDA continue. I mean, it was a 10-year commitment, and we're running out of time.
And the selling point there is that it's not the state. It's not a handout from the state. This is an investment. That if the state puts the money into the RDA, it will reap the rewards from an expanded tax base, because the RDA, if it does what we want it to do, it'll bring economic expansion to the region. More businesses, more jobs, more money to the state ultimately.
Right, and we're seeing that already.
Yeah.
The RDA is putting money into a lot of projects, frankly, on the lakefront. Implementing the Marquette plan that Congressman Visklosky brought to us, but also doing things with the airport and Gary. That project's chugging along, sometimes chugging more than along, but chugging along.
Yeah.
And also, it could be putting some skin in the game for the South Shore expansion as well. So, it'll be interesting.
That's all the time we have. We thank you for watching, and we'll be back next week, hopefully on a holiday week, with another political roundtable. And if we don't see you before Christmas, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Absolutely.